This is a May Luna Media production.
You know how some people can walk into a room and swear that they feel somebody's bad vibes on them? Or they'll like DM you saying, "Girl, I think you have been hexed," like they're delivering some sort of little weather alert. Well, let me just start this episode by saying, you do you, boo, but I personally do not subscribe to the belief that anybody else has the keys to my energetic kingdom. Like, nobody, not an ex, not a hater, not your aunt with the evil eye jewelry. Like, I don't believe that anybody can curse me or hex me or even give me a bad hair day from across the street. Like, my sovereignty is not on the clearance rack at the psychic Dollar Tree, and neither is yours. But here's the thing, your belief is the magic. And that's not just woo woo talk, that is neuroscience and quantum physics and a sprinkle of grandma wisdom all rolled into one. Your subconscious mind is the spell book, and your nervous system is the wand. So, whatever you believe to be true for you, especially if it is soaked in emotion and repetition, that becomes your lived reality. So, in other words, a curse can only stick if you pick it up and let it in. So, as we dive into today's episode, I want you to hold that truth tight because nobody has power over you unless you hand it to them. If you walk around believing that you're protected and rooted and sovereign and untouchable, then that is exactly what the fuck you are. And that's not just new age optimism. It is literally how your brain wires and your hormones fire and your biofield calibrates. And if you walk around believing that everybody's hexing you, well, congratulations, you just became the wizard of your own undoing. So today we're going to pick apart the myths and the science and the history and the juicy shadow work hiding behind curses and hexes and the evil eye. And we're going to ask the real questions. Are these things real? Are they projection? Or are they like some sort of spicy mix of both? By the end, though, my goal is that you're not only going to feel a little wiser, but also a hell of a lot more powerful because your sovereignty is not up for debate. Hey, and welcome to Synaptic Soul, the podcast where science meets spirit, and we get real about the beautiful and brutal and magical mess of being human. I'm your host, Ava Marie Anderson, writer, mystic, multidimensional mischief maker. Quick disclaimer, you may hear the occasional snort, sigh, dramatic flop from my two French bulldogs, Rocky and Rambo. They're the soundtracks of my life, my soul companions, and honestly, the real stars of the show. Someday we'll dedicate a full episode to their role in my daily rituals, emotional healing, and wild spiritual life. But for now, just know that they're always close by, snoring their support. Let's dive in. All right, let's rewind because before Instagram Reels and TikTok tutorials about how to bind your ex, humans have been obsessed with the idea of cursing and being cursed since, well, basically since forever. Like the hex isn't some edgy 21st century witchy aesthetic. It is one of the oldest cross cultural fears that we have got. And honestly, that alone tells us a lot about human psychology and the power dynamics in our ancestors' nervous systems. So, like, take ancient Mesopotamia. People there lived in a world of unpredictable floods and rulers and gods who might smite you just for breathing wrong. They weren't scrolling Pinterest for protection spells. They were inscribing incantations onto clay tablets and wearing carved amulets and leaving offerings to appease the unseen forces. They believed that malicious words and thoughts could travel through the ether and cause disease and crop failure and even infertility. Like a hex was a way to explain bad luck, but also a way to control it. Because if there is a curse, then there also can be a counter curse. And then we hop on over to ancient Greece, and you're going to find Defixiones, which are little lead tablets etched with curses that are meant to bind enemies or rivals or even lovers. And people rolled them up and nailed them shut, and then they buried them in graves to call on the underworld spirits. Dramatic. And the Romans had the same obsession. They would toss curse tablets into wells and temples. And Egyptians wore evil eye amulets to ward off envy. The evil eye was already a thing thousands of years before your cousin brought one back from Mykonos. And this wasn't just the Mediterranean. Like across Africa and the Middle East and Asia and the Americas, every culture had some versions of malicious energy projected outward. Like witch bottles in England stuffed with nails and hair, hair, and the voodoo dolls of Haiti, which, by the way, are mostly misunderstood folk magic for healing, and indigenous rituals for counteracting bad medicine. Humans everywhere recognized that jealousy and hatred and rage felt like something in the body, and so they gave it form. And it's easy to roll our eyes at this stuff now, but let's be real. Curses and hexes were basically the OG form of social media subtweeting. Like people were navigating envy and betrayal and rivalry and heartbreak and injustice. Like they didn't have court systems or HR departments, but what they had was ritual and symbol and story. And these rituals worked on the nervous system. When you believed that you were protected, you felt calmer. And when you believed that your enemy was bound, you slept better. And that is placebo, nocebo, and the nervous system regulation long before science gave it a name. And the evil eye, that's a whole thing in and of itself. Like at its root, it is not about a literal laser beam shooting out of somebody's pupils. It's about the human experience of envy. When somebody is looking at you sideways, wishing that they had what you have, there is a psychological effect. And studies now show that people can unconsciously mirror the stress or aggression of others. Like that glare of envy can actually trigger cortisol spikes in you if you're sensitive or empathic. So, when the ancients said evil eye, they were describing basically the felt experience of someone else's low frequency emotion directed your way. And what I love about the history is that it's not just superstition, it is a mirror of our survival wiring. Like, we're social animals. We're constantly scanning for threat, and not just saber toothed tigers, but social predators and jealous rivals and angry mobs. And because we didn't have fMRI machines back then, we encoded those vibes into myth and symbol and ritual. Like our ancestors were basically saying, yo, energy is real. And they didn't just have the quantum vocabulary for it. So when we talk about hexes today, we're tapping into a lineage of belief that is older than recorded time. The symbols, the blue glass eye, or the horseshoe, or the salt line, or the black candle, all of that is cultural tech. It's how humans externalized the invisible, made the unseen visible, and soothed their nervous systems in chaotic worlds. So the question now is how much of that was literal and how much of it was psychological projection? Like, did the curse itself cause harm, or did the belief in the curse cause harm? Like, we can't dig up a 3,000-year-old Defixio tablet and measure its energy field, but what we can do is look at the modern science, like placebo and nocebo effects that are so powerful that they're considered ethical minefields in medicine. And when you expect harm, your body often produces it. When you expect healing, your body often produces it. The ancients didn't know the terms for psychoneuroimmunology or biofield science, but they were onto something. So, in other words, the history of the hex isn't just about witches and curses. It's about humanity's oldest dance with energy and with belief and with power. It's about how we've always known at some gut level that what we think, feel, and project actually matters. And that's why even now in 2025, people still DM me asking if their ex's new girlfriend cursed them. Like we're still grappling with the same question that our ancestors had. Are we victims of somebody else's energy, or are we the sovereigns of our own field? And that's where we're going to be headed next. Like in segment 2, we're going to break down the psychology of the curse, how your nervous system, subconscious mind, and belief can make or break whether a hex works on you. And spoiler, this is where the science gets a little extra spicy. All right, so now that we've trekked through the ancient world of cursed tablets and evil eyes, let's bring it on home because the real magic or real mischief is happening inside of your own nervous system. And this is where it gets juicy. So, if the last segment was about the history of the hex, then this one is how your brain and your hormones and your subconscious are basically the stage crew making the hex work or fizzling it out entirely. So, here's the truth. A curse is a nocebo. If the placebo effect is when your body heals because you expect it to, the nocebo effect is when your body gets sick or it sabotages itself because you expect harm. And this isn't new age Pinterest talk. This is in peer reviewed medical journals. Like doctors have documented patients experiencing actual physical side effects from sugar pills simply because they were told that it was chemo. Like, that is how powerful belief is. Your subconscious mind is a spell book, and your nervous system is the wand. So, when somebody says, I think you've been hexed, what is really happening? Your brain goes on high alert and your cortisol spikes, and the amygdala, your little built in smoke alarm, it starts screaming. Like your immune system shifts from repair mode into fight or flight mode. You start scanning for the proof, the weird dreams, the tech glitches, the random headaches. Your subconscious loves confirmation bias, and you'll find evidence to support the story that you've basically accepted. Like, congratulations, you just hexed yourself more efficiently than any rival ever could. And this is why mystics and neuroscientists, strange bedfellows that they are, end up agreeing on one thing: belief shapes reality. In neuroscience, they call it predictive coding. Like your brain doesn't just record reality, it predicts it. It uses your beliefs and your expectations as a blueprint, and then it filters the world accordingly. And in quantum physics, they call that the observer effect. In magic, they call it spell work. It's the same fucking principle. Your consciousness steers the ship. And this is also why some people seem immune to hexes. It's not because they've got stronger sage or a thicker amulet, it's because they simply don't believe in giving away their power. Like they walk around with an internal program that says, I am sovereign, I am protected, and I'm not fucking available for this. And their nervous system stays regulated as a result. Their biofield stays coherent. The energy can't stick because there's no resonance for it. And this isn't arrogance, it is physics. Like coherent energy repels incoherent energy. A stable field naturally deflects chaos. But the opposite is also true. If you are running a program of unworthiness or fear or chronic vigilance, especially if you are an empath or you have trauma in your background, you are already primed to scan for threats. Like you're already hyper attuned to other people's vibes. That is your survival wiring. So when somebody says you're cursed, that old wiring lights up like a fucking pinball machine, and suddenly you're not just feeling off, you are telling your system that it's under attack. And your hormones and your heartbeat and your gut microbiome, all of it shifts to match the story. Like it's wild, right? But it's also empowering because it means that you are not a helpless victim of invisible forces. Like you're not at the mercy of somebody else's candle magic or bad mood. You're at the mercy of your own beliefs, which means that you can change them. And in a weird way, the modern witch wars online and TikTok hex your ex trends and the evil eye discourse, they're all like a collective workshop in sovereignty. What we're all being invited to ask is, what do I actually believe about my power, about my protection, and about myself? And I want to pause here and say this doesn't mean that other people's energy is never real. Like, we are all broadcasting signals. Emotions are contagious. Science has measured how heart rhythms sync between people and how brain waves entrain and how collective stress affects everything from the stock market to crime rates. Like, you can absolutely feel when somebody's throwing shade at you. That is real. But there's a cosmic chasm between I can feel their energy and they control my destiny. And that's where the projection piece comes in. Like sometimes when we think we're cursed, what's really happening is that our own shadow material is being triggered. Like we're being asked to integrate envy and fear and jealousy or our own, or even somebody else's, and then to stop outsourcing our power. Like we're being invited to regulate and to center and to ground and to remember that no one gets into your field without your permission. This is why spiritual hygiene matters, not as paranoia, but as self regulation. A salt bath, a prayer, a visualization, a walk in nature, these are all nervous system resets. They're not magic in the Harry Potter sense, but they're magic in the biopsycho spiritual sense. They give your subconscious a new script and they tell your body that we're safe and we're clean and we're sovereign. And then once your nervous system believes that, it then recalibrates. Your field strengthens and the hex dissolves because there's nowhere for it to land. So Bottom line, the psychology of the curse is the engine behind almost every hex story that you've ever heard. Belief plus emotion plus focus equals manifestation. If you believe you're cursed, then you're going to start living in that frequency. And if you believe you're sovereign, then you're going to start living in that frequency. And guess what? The frequency you live in becomes the reality that you experience. But you know what? Next segment, we'll go a little deeper. We're going to get into the actual science of energy and entanglement because while belief is a massive factor, there's also a growing body of research on the human biofield and quantum entanglement and how emotions might really travel through the field. And this is where mysticism and science stop being two different languages and start sounding like the same one. This episode is supported in part by Sage App, aka the app that's basically a metaphysical multivitamin. It's like having a spiritual sanctuary in your pocket minus the incense smoke in your purse. It's also where I host my new moon manifestation clubs, which, if you know, we go deep. So if you're ready to stop doom scrolling and start soul scrolling, download Sage in the App Store or Google Play and then step into a more intentional, magical version of your day. That's SAGED, like Sage, but with an app. Back to the episode. Okay, now that we've wandered through the ruins of Mesopotamia and we unpacked your nervous system like the Hogwarts sorting hat, let's go full nerd here because the real magic, the kind that actually has lab data behind it, lives in the way that energy and consciousness behave. And this is where the woo and the woe merge. So, first up is your biofield. For decades, mystics have talked about auras, and for decades, skeptics have rolled their eyes. But in the last 20 years, research groups from NIH to independent biophysics labs have been mapping what they call a human biofield. And that's a measurable electromagnetic field produced by your heart and your brain and even your cells. Like your heart alone generates a field 60 times stronger electrically than the brain and 1,000 times stronger magnetically. And this isn't a metaphor. You can measure it with a magnometer. It extends several feet outside of your body, interacting with the environment and with other people's fields. So, when you feel someone staring at you from across the room, your nervous system and their biofield are already in a silent conversation. And studies from HeartMath Institute show that one person's heart rhythm can entrain another's brain waves if they're just within a few feet. And that's not magic, that is physics. And now take that a step further. So, quantum physics tells us about entanglement, which is a phenomenon where two particles that have interacted remain connected no matter how far apart they are. So, if you change one, the other responds instantaneously beyond the speed of light. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, and it's been proven over and over and over again in labs. If the subatomic building blocks of reality can stay linked across space and time, is it really that wild to imagine that consciousness, which arises from those same particles, might also be entangled? And this is why so many mystics and healers talk about cords or threads between people. It's metaphor, yeah, but it's also describing a real phenomenon. Once you have deeply connected with somebody, your nervous systems, your memories, and your energy fields hold an imprint of each other. Like breakups hurt because you're literally withdrawing from an entrained system. Empaths feel exhausted because they have been running multiple open tabs of entanglement all day. And if somebody is actively obsessing about you in lust or in anger or in envy, their field is pinging yours like a bad Wi Fi connection. But here's the kicker: entanglement doesn't equal control. Like, just because you're entangled does not mean that somebody else can override your system. It just means that you can feel them. Like, think of it like Bluetooth. Your phone can see a nearby device, but unless you hit pair, no data transfers. And this is why your sovereignty matters so much. A regulated, coherent biofield is like having your Bluetooth in airplane mode. Like, you can still sense who's around, but nobody's hijacking your playlist. But let's also talk about frequency and coherence because everything vibrates: atoms, molecules, cells, thoughts, emotions. Low frequency states like fear and rage and jealousy, they produce chaotic, incoherent patterns. And then high frequency states like gratitude and love and joy produce smooth, coherent patterns. And coherence isn't just pretty, it is protective. Coherent systems naturally repel incoherent noise, and this is why your meditations and your rituals and your salt baths work. It's not just superstition. There are ways of bringing your body and your heart and your mind into coherent frequency so that chaotic energy can't stick to it. And science backs this up. In heart brain research, when people enter a state of appreciation or compassion, their heart rhythm becomes smooth and sine wave like. Their immune markers improve and their brain synchronizes with their hearts. They become literally harder to perturb, both physically and emotionally. And this is what mystics have always called raising your vibration. It's not just a meme, it is your physiology creating an energetic Teflon coating. Now, where does the evil eye fit into this? Well, think of envy as a broadcast. Like when somebody is deeply fixated on you with jealousy, they are sending out a low frequency signal. And if your field is dysregulated, you might tune into it like static on a radio. But if your field is coherent, you don't even pick it up. The envy is real, yeah, but the effect on you is optional. And this is why belief, which we talked about in segment 2, is the master key. Your biofield responds to your inner narrative. So if you believe that you're vulnerable, your field is going to open. And if you believe that you're sovereign, then your field organizes. It's that inner alignment that changes your electromagnetic signature, which changes what you resonate with, which changes your lived reality. Like mystics call it magic, and physicists call it resonance, and neuroscientists call it predictive coding. It's all the same mechanism, it's just a different language. So, yes, there is such a thing as energy being directed at you. And yes, your body can feel it. But no, that doesn't mean curses are real in the Hollywood sense, like a spell flying across the astral plane to knock over your coffee mug. What's real is entrainment and resonance and your ability to choose what you allow to link with you. And you know what? Here's the funny part. Even the CIA has studied consciousness and non local effects, and we'll save that deep dive for another episode. But remote viewing and intentional influence and energy healing, the data's weird, but it is all there. And the point is that we live in participatory universe. We're all influencing and being influenced, but the power to set your boundary vibrationally and neurologically and spiritually, that still rests with you. Which brings us to our next theme, which is projection and shadow and the evil eye, because a lot of what people call hexes are actually just mirrors. Like someone else's jealousy showing you where you still doubt yourself. And your own fears are masquerading as the attack. So, in the next segment, we're going to get real about the shadow side of all of this, like how much of what we experience as cursing is actually our own projection, and then how to stop being your own energetic saboteur. All right, bro, buckle up because this is where we stop blaming Aunt Linda's side eye and we start peeking into our own. Because here's the wild, uncomfortable truth: a huge percentage of what people call hexes or bad energy or the evil eye isn't actually coming from outside. Like the call is coming from inside the house. And let's just start with the evil eye itself. So, anthropologists will tell you that the evil eye belief is one of the most universal folk traditions on the planet. Like from Greece to Mexico to India to Ethiopia, the story is basically the same. Somebody envies you, looks at you with malice, and boom, crops fail, milk sours, and babies get sick. It's the shadow of admiration, jealousy given teeth, but underneath that is an insight that our ancestors intuited without even Instagram or neuroscience. Like envy is a powerful projection of unintegrated desire. When somebody gives you the evil eye, what they're actually doing is unconsciously throwing their own lack or their pain or their longing at you. But here's the kicker: projection only lands if you're still carrying a matching wound. Like if you're secure in yourself, somebody else's envy registers as a faint blip. But if you're not, if you secretly feel unworthy or imposter syndromed or shaky, their projection hits your wound like Velcro. Like you feel it and it destabilizes you. And because your nervous system's threat alarm starts ringing, you interpret that dysregulation as I've been hexed, when in fact, what you've just felt was resonance. Your unhealed part meeting their unhealed part. And in psychology, this is called projective identification. When somebody unconsciously dumps their emotional material into you and you unconsciously pick it up. In magic, it's called throwing shade or casting the evil eye. In quantum talk, it's called entraining to another signal. It's all the same fucking thing. And in all three frameworks, the only lasting fix is the same: integrate your own shadow so that you are not a sponge for theirs. And here's an example. Like, say you've been working on your business and you finally see success, but deep down you are terrified of being visible. Like, somebody from your past sees you online, gets jealous, and thinks, ugh, who does she think she is? Like, that thought carries a charge. Your system, already insecure, then feels it. And suddenly your launch goes sideways and your computer glitches and you stub your toe. And you think, oh my God, they fucking cursed me. But really, their envy pinged your fear, and your fear dysregulated your field. And the chaos you're experiencing is your own nervous system spiraling, not a spell. Like, you're literally hexing yourself with your own unintegrated belief. And this is why shadow work isn't some trendy hashtag. It is literally spiritual hygiene. It's armor. When you have owned your own jealousy and your fear and your anger and your shame, you stop being a Velcro pad for other people's projections. You become Teflon. Their evil eye slides right off because you've got nothing in your hat that matches it. And this isn't just spiritual theory, it is neuroscience. A regulated nervous system is less reactive, it's less suggestible, and it's more coherent. And a coherent biofield repels incoherence, period. But let's just flip the mirror again, because sometimes we're the ones throwing the shade. Like, sometimes our jealousy, our passive aggressive thoughts, and our subtle resentments are the evil eye that we're sending. And most people aren't going to admit it, but all of us have had a moment of scrolling and thinking, ugh, must be nice. That's the shadow side of admiration. And if you're energetically sensitive, you're going to feel your own projection boomeranging back at you. Self hexing isn't always obvious. It can look like comparing yourself to others until your immune system tanks. It can look like constantly speaking words of defeat over your life and calling it realism. Words are spells, thoughts are electric, emotions are magnetic. You are broadcasting all day, bro, and you're also sitting in the soup that you've cooked. But the good news is that you can stop self hexing anytime you want. You do it by pulling your projections back, by naming your jealousy instead of suppressing it, by blessing what you envy instead of resenting it, by turning must be nice into that's evidence it's possible for me too. And that shift literally changes your frequency. Like, you stop being a match for the very energy that you're afraid of. And here's the part that's both humbling and liberating. You don't need 47 amulets and 19 candles and a fucking goat sacrifice to stay protected. You just need awareness. You need nervous system regulation. You need to own your own shadow. Because no matter how many people look at you, nothing can override a field that's coherent and integrated and sovereign. The evil eye just becomes a myth when your inner eye is clear. So, next time you catch yourself thinking somebody's hexing me, pause for a moment. Ask, where am I already agreeing with that story? Like, what unhealed part of me is resonating with their projection? What shadow am I being asked to own so that I can become immune? And that's the real magic. It's not paranoia, it's not the victimhood, it is integration. It's sovereignty. And when you do that, when you start seeing curses as mirrors instead of attacks, something shifts. You stop living in a world full of invisible enemies and you start living in a world full of teachers. Every trigger becomes a training ground. Every evil eye becomes a neon sign pointing you back to your own power. And that, my dudes, is how you go from being hexed to being untouchable. So, up next, we're going to bring it all together and we're going to talk about protection and reversal and sovereignty, not as fear rituals, but as daily practices to keep your field clear and your power anchored. Like, think of it as spiritual immune health, like the science and the soul of staying hex proof. This episode is brought to you in part by one of my most favorite humans on this spinning planet, Morgan Garza, and her book Soul Magic. If you've ever felt like your power was just waiting beneath the surface, or like there's something ancient and electric inside of you ready to be reclaimed, then this is the book that helps you remember. Soul magic is not just a read, it is a summoning. It's filled with rituals and stories and the kind of grounded spiritual wisdom that doesn't talk at you, it talks with you. Morgan writes like a soul sister, a cosmic cheerleader, and a priestess all rolled into one. And it's a must have for anyone on the path of awakening, reclaiming. So grab your copy at morgangarza.com or wherever books are sold, or bless someone else's journey and gift it, because real magic's meant to be shared. That's Soul Magic by Morgan Garza. You'll feel it in your bones. All right, my magical quantum cuties, now that we have toured history and nervous systems and quantum fields and your own shadow, let's talk about the part that everybody just wants to skip to. That is protection and reversal. Like, how do you actually keep your energy clean and your field sovereign and your power anchored without becoming the person who is sage smudging every 5 minutes in a panic? But we're going to be real first. Most of what people call protection magic is nervous system regulation dressed up in ritual clothes, like salt baths and smudging and candles and prayers and amulets and sigils. They work not because the salt and the sage have some Harry Potter force field, although plants do have measurable antimicrobial and ionizing and psychoactive properties, but because they give your subconscious a script. They tell your body, we are safe now. We're releasing. We are shielded. And that's not a placebo. That is biopsychospiritual tech, and it calms your vagus nerve and smooths your heart rhythm and organizes your biofield. A regulated field naturally repels chaos. So, if you're going to do the rituals, do them with intention and not fear. Light a candle and say, I'm protected and I'm sovereign and nobody gets into my field without my permission, and drop the frantic banish vibe. Bring in that calm and grounded and unbothered vibe. Protection rituals done in panic reinforce the story that I'm under attack, but protection rituals done in sovereignty reinforce the story that I'm untouchable. Like, you see the difference? And for my science nerds, meditation and prayer and gratitude practices measurably shift your brain waves and your heart coherence. When you enter theta or alpha brain states, your immune system strengthens, like your electromagnetic field stabilizes, and you literally become harder to perturb. And this is why monks sitting in caves and grandmas saying rosaries both radiate peace. They've trained their nervous systems, they've trained their biofields. Everything is like a big, warm, coherent sun. Like, good luck trying to hex that. And another key is intentional shielding versus dissociation. Like, some people protect themselves by walling off and numbing out. And that's not protection, that's dissociation. True shielding feels like expansion, not contraction. It's not a steel vault, it's a living membrane. Like, think of your biofield as a healthy cell membrane. Like, it lets the nutrients in and it pushes the toxins out and it keeps your nucleus safe. That is sovereignty. You're permeable to love and inspiration, but impermeable to manipulation and chaos. And then there's the reversal. Like, people love to ask, how do I send it back? Well, here's my take. You don't have to sling mud back at people. You just don't pick it up. Like, in quantum terms, what you don't resonate with can't stick. In spiritual terms, return to sender happens automatically when your field is coherent. You don't need to curse the cursor. You just need to stay rooted in your own power so that anything not matching it falls away. And if you do feel like something's on you, rather than spiraling, try this. Ground into your body, like bare feet on earth and slow belly breaths. Visualize a waterfall of light pouring through you and washing everything out through your feet into the earth for composting. Maybe say aloud, any energy that's not mine, I release you. Any permission that I gave, I revoke it. I'm sovereign. And then feel your heart expand and feel your shoulders drop, like you just ran a nervous system reset and an energetic cleanse at the same time. And your daily habits matter too. Sleep and hydration and nutrition and movement. Like, coherence is built, not conjured. Your body is your temple, and a temple with leaky pipes is easier to invade. When your physical system is strong and your emotional system is integrated, you naturally carry a stronger electromagnetic signature. And that signature is your shield. Like, you don't have to build it, you just have to be it. And for the love of all things holy, stop doom scrolling witch wars and hex hashtags. Like, every time you immerse yourself in content about curses, you're giving your subconscious a suggestion. It's basically saying, this is real and relevant to me. And then guess what your nervous system does with that? It opens your field to it. So if you must scroll, do it from the vibe of, look at these kids playing with energy they don't understand, rather than, oh no, they're going to get me. Like, your field listens to your narrative. And this is what sovereignty is all about. So here we are. After 6,000 years of curse tablets and evil eye amulets and witch wars and nervous system meltdowns and quantum entanglement, the question still hangs in the air. Are hexes and curses and evil eyes real, or are they just a projection? And my answer is yes. Because here's the paradox: hexes are absolutely real if you believe in them. Not because your nosy neighbor across the street is secretly burying chicken bones in her backyard to ruin your love life, but because your belief is the alchemy. Your subconscious is constantly scripting reality. If you buy into the idea that you're cursed, your body and your energy and your circumstances will start dancing to that tune. Like, you're gonna see the proof everywhere. That's the nocebo effect, confirmation bias, and shadow resonance all rolled into one spooky season latte. And at the same time, hexes are absolute projection. Like, they're envy and resentment and wearing a ritual costume. Like, they're their own unintegrated wounds pinging against somebody else's. They're the parts of ourselves we'd rather outsource. It's not me, it's the curse. Like, blaming the evil eye is often easier than admitting that we're afraid of being seen, or we're jealous of somebody's success, or we haven't integrated that part of us that still believes that we don't deserve good things. But here's where the magic is, and the science actually. Actually, they both just high five each other. Whether it's real energy being sent your way or just your own shadow doing the cha cha, the remedy is the same: sovereignty, nervous system coherence, owning your field, refusing to give away authority over your own energy to anyone, not your ex, not your boss, not your jealous frenemy, not even the witchy TikToker with the 10-part series on cursing, because science tells us your brain predicts reality based on belief. Quantum physics tells us that entangled systems resonate with each other. Spirituality tells us that intention is magic. All three point to the same core truth: you are not a passive victim in this universe. You are a co creator. The curse isn't in the chicken bones or the candle wax, it's in the agreement that you make with it. So, our curse is real. Yeah, in the same way that the placebo and the nocebo are real. They can change your biology and your mood and your luck and your life, but only with your consent. Are curses just projection? Yes, in the sense that most of what we call bad energy is somebody else's shadow leaking out, or our own fear mirrored back at us. Both truths can exist at the same time. And that is actually the most liberating part in honesty. Because once you understand the mechanics, the psychology, the energy, the history, you stop being scared of evil eyes and you start being curious about them. Every curse becomes a mirror. Every bad vibe becomes feedback, and every attack becomes a chance to choose sovereignty instead of fear. And this is where I circle back to how I opened this episode. No one, no one has power over you unless you hand it to them. Like, period, dot. That's not just woo optimism. It's how your nervous system and your subconscious and your biofield actually work. Your belief is your spell. Your coherence is your shield. Your sovereignty is your reversal. And that, my dudes, is some serious magic. So the next time you feel hexed, just pause, ask yourself, is this really somebody else's energy, or is it my own shadow inviting me to integrate? Either way, the cure isn't paranoia. The cure is presence. Ground yourself, breathe, remember who the fuck you are. Speak it out loud if you have to. I am sovereign. I am protected. I am unfucking touchable. And then feel the field reorganize around you. That is not your imagination. That is your biology and your spirit syncing up. And here's the tea. Once you live from that place, curses lose their teeth. Evil eyes lose their power, and other people's projections bounce off like a fucking Nerf dart. Because once you're standing in your own authority, there's no crack for anything else to slip through. That's not protection, that is mastery. So are hexes real or projection? Well, they're both. And they're neither. They're a story. And you, my love, are the author. So write it well.